Well, Blue Sox fans, welcome to the second episode of Blue Sox Banter, and who better to have as their very first guest on the podcast and the man who's thrown plenty of time, energy, emotion, and a few bucks as well behind this franchise over the last few years, Adam Dobb, the owner of the Sydney Blue Sox. Dobby, welcome along, and thanks for being our first guest.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for the invite, and yeah, appreciate the time.
We're a couple of months away from the start line this year. I think we're December 18 is the forecast start. How are you, and how are things shaping up?
Yeah, good, mate. 9 weeks tonight, but who's counting? Yeah, mate, look, it's been an interesting year with COVID. We've recruited hard. We've worked hard on a really professional organisation. Visa and travel exemptions has been difficult. A lot of hours put in, but, mate, like everyone that's in this game, we love it, and we put in the hours that are needed.
The sporting landscape is so different, and we've seen this from rugby league, AFL, basketball, netball, and baseball is going to be no different. It's going to be a very different looking year. But look, I want to go back to the start before we delve into this season, what's coming up. You and I have known each other for a while now. We've played against each other, and we've been mates for a long time. But tell us, where did this passion for baseball come from?
Mate, you probably know where the passion come from. It probably started 25 years ago when, I crossed that white line. It was a game I always loved and loved competing in, and loved the competition and loved, the teams that I was around. So I was always quite passionate about the game and team sport in general. Life evolved after the body wasn't able to keep doing what it did each weekend. Kids come into my life, and all of a sudden they start playing, so I go into coaching. And it probably wasn't enough for me because I felt like I was missing out. So jump into sports administration and take on a license of an APL franchise.
It's a fair way to jump into it. And look, a lot of people don't have the ability or capacity to do that, but a lot of people do as well. But for you to be able to take that deep dive and buy the franchise, what was the driver behind that?
The driver was I wanted to make a change in the game, and it was probably a real opportunity for us to do that. And probably in the first year or two, I thought there might be some small investments, and we'll eventually, return this professional sport in Australia to profitability. And I'm quickly learning that that's a easier said than done task, but we're very close now. We're running a tighter ship. It's a better organisation. I've learned a lot of lessons, and look, mate, it's been an expensive hobby, but at the moment, I'm just going to say that it's an educated investment at the moment.
I've once heard it, and I'm not too sure where I heard it, but I heard someone once say the easiest way to become a millionaire is start with your $1 billion and buy a sporting franchise. Is it a fair way to look at it?
Hey, I've never heard that, but I need to write that down. That's exactly how it works.
Let's. You've been involved with this for a couple of years now, but let's have a look at this season. And the Sydney Blue Sox have been the talk of the baseball world, in a world where not a lot of baseball has been happening for much of it. But the signing of Manny Ramirez, a two-time World Series champion, 550 career home runs, 15th all-time. This guy is a legend of baseball, an absolute superstar. Let's go back a little bit a few months ago. This is what I do know leading up to it. We heard some stuff in the media that the Auckland Tuataras had been approached and were looking to sign Manny Ramirez. All of a sudden, he's lobbing in Sydney. Tell us, where did it happen? Where did it all start?
Yeah. If we look at the Tuatara announcement, as a long-time Red Sox fan, I thought that was amazing for our game. I knew at that stage that we weren't in Auckland's division, and I thought I might travel to Auckland and watch a few games this year and leave Sydney back in Sydney. Manny's coming to town. And, mate, out of left field, we get an email through the system that's his agent saying, are you interested in Manny Ramirez? And it was, I've referred on a couple of radio interviews and that. It was like a punked moment. Like, is someone serious? They're asking me if I want Manny.
And with all email spamming and things like that we get these days, the first question is it legit, right?
Yeah. And I didn't know who his agent was. I didn't know if this gentleman was actually who he's saying he was. So the first response from me was quite, pretty straight and basic, and didn't want to seem, overly excited. But, mate, jump forward a few days, there's a little bit of back and forth, and I thought I need to find out how legitimate this is. So I invite the agent and Manny on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
And that's a funny one because he accepts, and all of a sudden I'm in the waiting room of this Zoom chat, and we all get on, and all of a sudden Manny Ramirez is sitting there. Okay.
All right. So tell us about that moment. So you grew up as a Red Sox fan. You had posters of Manny Ramirez on your wall as a young bloke.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you're sitting there on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
And his face pops up. Tell us about that moment.
Yeah, there was knowing that the Zoom call was happening, I tried a little bit of role playing with myself. What I'd be careful not to say and what should I say. And anyway, it was kind of it was almost like a first date moment. It was that nerves.
Geez, I hope he likes me. I hope I don't blow this.
Mate, it was a bit like that. And so I actually, the truth of it was, Shane Barclay was on the call, so he can testify to it. But we get on the call, and the first thing I say is, listen, I just need 2 minutes to get all the emotion out. Manny, Red Sox fan, thank you for all those years. Hope you're well. All right, let's talk business. And then, mate, 10 minutes into it, I just truly believed that he wanted to come to a big city in Australia. He said on that call that he'd spoken to Auckland, so I knew that bit was true. But Auckland wasn't big enough for him. An arrogant comment. It was, he's just a big name and wanted to experience Australia. And so anyway, mate, there was weeks and weeks of back and forth, and he had contracts in Japan where in his contract he had unlimited sushi, and I'm like, how far is this going to go? Anyway, we haven't signed up to any sushi this year, but and look, it was realistic. The guy's one of the biggest stars in the game. He hasn't come cheap, but really realistic for us to be able to, tap into this name, help the game, help Sydney, share him amongst the other teams, junior programs that he's passionate about. The guy still hits every day. We also heard when we signed Jacob Robson from the Tigers, the irony of it was that Jacob, when we were talking to Jacob, was down in Miami working on his hitting, and in the cage next to him was Manny. And so we kind of went to Jacob and said, mate, we need a bit of intel. Is this an old Manny or what? And he said, mate, don't know if he can run, but can still swing it. So, we fast forward, and, mate, I can still remember the Saturday. I was driving in the car with Harry, and I couldn't even do it because I don't have the raw emotion now. But what I let out was like a euphoric scream, like a schoolgirl at a Justin Bieber concert. And Harry said, Manny signed. And I said, yeah. And, mate, driving home, I was over at Miranda, and driving home was about an hour drive home. I was going to get the social media already. And then, mate, we were kilometres up the road, and, Harry sitting next to me said, Dad, it's all over MLB Network. And I'm like, no. So we're posting from the car.
Wow.
It was crazy. But great for the game. The US got involved. South America's heavily involved. We've got a broadcast deal that's to be released shortly. Heavily involved in South America. So we're about to take the Sydney Blue Sox and the ABL globally. And, mate, we can't wait. It's exciting times.
I want to get to that. But in your discussions with Manny and his agents first, did you ask the question, or was the question asked as, why does Manny want to come and play baseball in Australia? Yeah,
no, you're exactly right. When we went from the emotional 2 minutes to then, right, let's talk business. And my first question was, let's cut to the chase. Why? And his response was, never a single day goes by where he doesn't love the game. Never a single day goes by where he doesn't want to compete. I would still love to play at the level I used to play at. I probably know I can't, but I'm going to challenge myself until I can't. And I just went, that's enough for me. Let's do it.
And I suppose a guy with he still has that passion and drive. He's not here for a holiday, right?
No. Look, mate, very, very driven. We may talk about Rachel during this podcast, but he reached out recently and asked for Rachel's direct contact because he wanted her to look at the bottom half of his swing because he couldn't see that in his own BP analysis.
Yeah.
He's serious. And you know what? I've said this again previously, and I'll say it again. There would be a select few athletes in the world when you get to a level, you're not going to embarrass the brand.
Yeah.
And Manny's in that group. He's not going to come out here and embarrass himself and be the laughing stock. He's working hard now. He wants to be out 8 weeks before the season. Given COVID and a few things, it won't be 8 weeks, but he'll be out earlier than most because he wants to run and train with the team.
Yeah.
He's not asking me how he can, climb the Harbour Bridge and can you drive me to Taronga Zoo? And, he may do all those things, but he's here for baseball first, mate. His wife and kids are staying home. He's here to play baseball.
Amazing. Now, we were talking before we jumped online here that he's already had a Zoom call with a few of the players. Tell us about that moment.
Mate, I got a kick out of the Zoom call I had with him, and I asked him if we could invite, the playing group that had already signed, and he said, yeah, let's do it. And mate, it went for about 2 hours. There's about 8 of the boys on there, and you could tell there was a few of them that were in that starstruck moment, and a couple of nervous questions from the boys that are normally the loudest of the group, and but some really good questions, some good banter, and mate, he is so humble. At the end of the call, I was telling you earlier, at the end of the call, I'm not sure who he addressed it to, but he said, guys, I need you to stop treating me like this. I want to be one of the boys. And then,
amazing.
Incredible. And as genuine as you could hear it. He got his phone. He walked around the room. He showed us his bags. His baseball bag is packed. He's had cleats specially made with the Carolina blue for the Blue Sox. He had boxes full of bats. Jacob Eunice asked if he could bring him a couple of bats. The banter then turns into, well, Uni's getting jammed a lot these days as he gets older and needs a few more bats. And, mate, it was just a really good couple of hours with the boys.
So the impressions then you've got from him, he's obviously take the baseball away from it. He's a quality human being, and that's what you want to bring to the ball club.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. We've been big on, we've talked about culture for a couple of years. This year, we've really implemented it. And yeah, look, Manny, what he's shown, and he and I talk on text message and phone calls every second day at the moment. Just, he reaches out to me and asks how my kids are going, first and foremost.
Yeah.
Just a genuine man. And, I think we get caught up sometimes when we, you'd see it with the football, mate. Superstars that we walk past and talk to and interview, and, there's that starstruck moment. At the end of the day, this guy is human like you and I, breathes the same air, same number of hours in a day, just had a gift.
He just happened to play baseball really, really well.
Exactly.
Do you see him having an impact on this league at, what is he, 48 years of age? Do you see him having an impact?
Yeah, look, I think at the start, we used to talk about, if he hit for a low average and put 1 or 2 out and he drew, bums on seats and the needle was moved in the Australian Baseball League, it's a success. The more people I speak to about his conditioning right now, his BP sessions, the videos he sent me on his BP hitting off a tee, the Jacob Robson comment, players and agents that are in America watching Manny do Manny. Yeah, the expectations are high now. But it's a short season this year. Will he adjust to the climate in time? yeah, I think he's very capable, mate. When you've played that long, I think it's just about getting that timing again. We'll soon find out. But yeah, I'm excited to watch it. I mean, designated hitter, Sydney Blue Sox, Manny Ramirez.
It's a bit like when Sachin Tendulkar went out to bat at Eden Gardens in India. They all flocked just to see him play, and let's hope in whatever the environment looks like, with whatever COVID's looking like, we can see that. But you said that, and we saw it. It was on ESPN. This made news of the world, and I think this is a great opportunity. In fact, probably the greatest opportunity that baseball has ever had in this country.
Yeah.
To really showcase what it can do.
Yeah, look, I think because I'd been around baseball for so long, I was referencing to people that I thought it was, the biggest signing in baseball. But how did it stack up in the Australian sport landscape? Michael Clark mentioned a couple of weeks ago, he thinks it's one of the biggest signings in Australian sport. It's Del Piero-esque.
Well, if you look at it in terms of, and I don't have the figures in front of me, but Manny Ramirez financially has done okay out of baseball. It's fair to say. And you can go online and look at what his contracts and what, comparatively speaking, Alessandro Del Piero, who came out here and played for Sydney FC a few years ago, he was an international superstar. Comparatively speaking, without knowing the numbers, I'd say Manny's financial numbers alone would eclipse that.
Yep.
Without a doubt.
Yep, I agree. And what I see and read, yes, he does. Yep.
So you've taken on Manny. As we said, it's the biggest thing that's happened in baseball. Do you feel a responsibility or a weight of expectation now that the Blue Sox are going to carry the can now for the league this year?
Yeah, I've had close friends of mine in the game at administration level around the ABL say, mate, well done. You've got an opportunity. Don't miss out on, capitalizing on it. And it's at that moment you go, yeah, this is huge. And when we get to February and March, you want to look back and say, we did everything we could for Manny to help our game. You don't want to get to February, March and say, oh, we could have, we should have, et cetera, et cetera. So I think about it regularly. I mean, I'd love to update my LinkedIn status with Manny Ramirez as boss. But, yeah, look, mate, we're working hard. We're putting different strategies together, and the teams that are in our conference have been offered Manny for a day or two early before the others travel, into their corporate market. Let him see the sights of those states as well, if we're allowed in some of those states. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, mate. No, look, not a day goes by where I don't think about, and myself, mate, for a long time, I'm my harshest critic. So whatever anyone's already said about me online or Manny, I've already thought about it myself. So we're continually challenging ourselves to make sure that we do the right thing. For Manny, he's on a 1+1 contract, and the +1 is a club option.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So he's prepared to come back next year. But like we've seen in all sport, if you don't do the right thing in year one, they don't come back. So, yeah, mate, there's a lot of pressure and expectation that I feel, but I'm enjoying that, yeah.
I heard another podcast or another interview that you did not long ago, and his age, while you're dealing with Manny, his agent came back to you with a clause in his contract, a very specific clause, which in American Major League Baseball, you could see why he would want that. But tell us about what they came back and asked you to add into his contract.
Yeah, mate, I can still remember the opening line was, we need the contract adjusted. And I'm like, here we go. Is this a sushi moment?
The too good to be true kind of moment.
Yeah. He hadn't signed yet. He was verbally committed, but I need the contract changed. Okay, here we go. I read down, and the clause was that the Sydney Blue Sox will not trade Manny Ramirez to another ABL club. I couldn't think of too many emails I've written in my life where the reply button was hit so quickly. Not a problem at all. I'll get it updated.
I can guarantee you categorically 100% that we will not be trading Manny Ramirez for anything.
Yeah. But obviously he'd played in a game where they can do that without the player being questioned. And yeah, it was even after I'd hit send and said, yeah, no dramas, updated contract. And then I thought, no, I now understand why that was so important to him. Because Sydney, we spent a lot of time on what we were about, and we had our own personalities questioned by agent and Manny, and it needed to be a fit, but it was definitely a big city thing. So, yeah, interesting clause to add, but was okay.
Mate, congratulations on the signing. It is going to be amazing, and I have no doubt that this won't just cause a buzz in Australian baseball. This is going to cause a buzz in world sport. When he finally lands here, it is going to be huge. Now, you touched on a few minutes ago about Rachel. Now, Rachel Balkovich has been signed as a hitting coach for the Sydney Blue Sox, but her story is so much bigger than that. Earlier this year, she signed as the first ever female hitting coach for an American major league organization, in which just happened to be the biggest there is in the New York Yankees. Tell us a little bit more about Rachel, who she is, and how you've ended up getting her to Sydney as well.
Yeah, mate. One of the most strongest, passionate people that I've met in the game. Take the female aspect out of it. Her knowledge of the game. I remember when Shane Barclay rang me and he said, "Mate, I've just had a Zoom call with this Rachel, and for a guy, and yourself, mate, Buck has been around a long time. I've never heard his level of excitement around the knowledge that she had." And I thought, all right, I need to hear this for myself. Mate, incredible. Passion, knowledge, strength and conditioning, hitting analysis, up to date with all the data stuff. She works hard herself. She earns the respect of the organizations she's in, and she's had to overcome adversity. I mean, I wouldn't say that our game is sexist, but there's barriers for females to get into at that level.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew the story, but for those that don't know it, it's on a video clip, but Rachel tells it amazingly, where her CV is polished, but could not get a gig with 30 major league teams. So she changes her CV to A and has 28 of 30 teams reach out to her and want her employed.
Yeah.
And you know what? And let's not even go into that conversation. That's an issue in itself, and the world is changing. But this woman's had to overcome that adversity and is now a serious member of the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
It's a story. So again, whether it's Zoom chat with her or SMS chat with her, I mean, she lifts some serious weight each day. She works hard in the gym. She's passionate about the game. She loves hunting out in the woods. And she can't wait to get out here. So that came about where she actually was interested in coming out here before Manny. And we'd got to, let's just work out what we're going to do this year. And then Manny signs, like, I don't know if we can now financially look at Manny plus a Rachel. And we hadn't got to dollars yet with Rachel. But I just thought, that profile, without a return on investment on the field type thing, she, so we kind of said, let's just park that for a week or two. Well, she kept asking. She'd been furloughed, set off for the park for the side with the COVID Yankees thing, and she really wanted to continue her craft. And so probably what helped was her persistence to come and work out in the ABL. And I love that. I thought, you know what, how do we handle this? And Shane said, just tell her the truth. So I went back, I said, listen, on the quiet, we've just signed Manny. For those major imports, budget's now a lot tighter. Sorry. And she come back and look, without going into details, she has worked very closely with us to make this work and is doing a lot on her own back. And I admire that. And she'll come out here and she'll be financially rewarded for her programs she'll do. New South Wales Office of Sport want to work with her on, there's a women's in sport program that's coming out later in the year. So she'll get her financial rewards and she deserves it. Yeah, look, and again, just happy to have someone with that background to help take this club to where we want to take it to. But yeah, but again, I think you kind of hear in the way I talk about her, a quality human being first.
I spoke to Shane a couple of weeks ago, and he told me about Rachel, and I'd never heard of her before. He said, just have a look at her LinkedIn profile, do a bit of Googling and come back to me. Man, I was blown away. You just have to not just watch the videos of the serious weights that she lifts in the gym, but just the copy that she has underneath it and the inspirational kind of quotes, and which is all coming from her.
Yep.
She is an incredible human being. And I can't wait. I think she's going to love it here. And I think simply what she's going to get out of baseball with the Sydney Blue Sox in Australia. But as we know, women's sport in Australia is just going through the roof. We just come off the back of a women's T20 World Cup, 86,000 people at the MCG for the final with Australia winning. We've got an NRLW competition. We've got an AFLW competition. Women's sport is just going through the roof at the moment. So her to come to Australia and see and be exposed to that. And I hope in some way she gets a chance to be part of some of these other sports as well while she's here.
Yeah, mate. Look, I mean, again, and I'm sure a lot of them have in Australia as well, the women that have had to come into rugby league or cricket and baseball and have to overcome society's view that this is a male sport, they eventually break through it. And I'd imagine that's not easy. And Rachel's done it in potentially the first, second or third biggest brand in professional sport.
Oh, yeah. Name a bigger brand in the world than the New York Yankees. Unbelievable.
Maybe Manchester United, but you're clutching at straws after that.
They're making the grand final, those two, aren't they?
Yeah.
Rachel, Manny, two amazing signings, and we can't wait to have them out here in Australia. And of course, we'll have them on the Blue Sox Banter podcast when they come out here, maybe even beforehand. Hopefully we can sort that out in a few weeks. But let's turn our attention to the season so far. December 18, opening series is scheduled against the Melbourne Aces. That was put out a little while ago. We know in this world that we're living at the moment, things are changing every day. Do we have an update at the moment, mate, as to where the league's placed? Are we still going to have two conferences? Are we still going to start on December 18?
There was an update that went out not too long ago around Cam Vale explaining where the international conference is at. That has been a moving target for a few weeks with their hub model. Where can they travel? What quarantining's in place? If we go to New Zealand early, it means we've got a 14-day quarantine to come back. So that either affects the middle of the season or affects the playoffs. So that's not practical. If we just stay in Brisbane and hub in Brisbane with that international conference, there's one or two teams that then don't see, that it's financially viable. So do they withdraw? Blade's got an interest. Someone told me that, Lismore's been thrown up in recent days. That conference will be hub driven, hopefully still has all the international teams in it. And one of them will move on to play the winner of the Australian conference. The Australian conference that I've obviously got a lot more information on.
So hang on, just for those unaware, mate, the international conference will consist of who this year?
Geelong, Korea, Auckland, Brisbane and Adelaide.
Right. Okay. So that's the international conference. So the second conference will be obviously the rest.
Yeah, which is Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth.
Yep.
We were fortunate 6-8 weeks ago where we released a schedule, and to this day it still hasn't changed. I'm very confident, all but 100% confident, that schedule will still run as a true home and away series outside of an unknown COVID outbreak, touch wood. It will still run as it's structured with the dates and end times. And so much so, this week, the four owners got on a call and we spent 2.5 hours flushing out, and each team had to have a turn. And round one. So in Sydney's case, round one, we host Melbourne. And you throw up all the what ifs. And the what ifs were, in that case, maybe Melbourne have to quarantine for 14 days in Sydney. So the Melbourne owner agrees that they will quarantine for 14 days in Sydney in advance if it means playing round 1 in Sydney. Tick. Round 2, we have Canberra at home. No dramas.
Yeah.
Round 3, we got Canberra away. No dramas. Round 4, we go to Melbourne. So then we said, well, plan A is we'll go to Melbourne. But what if Melbourne in round 4, doesn't allow us to enter the state? Or if we go to Melbourne, you would have to quarantine when you come back. Well, that doesn't work. So we said, look, plan A is we go to Melbourne. Plan B is maybe you're allowed in regional Melbourne. Does that mean Geelong Ballpark's ground now becomes in play again? Option C for that round was Melbourne have accepted that they may have to go on the road. The reason I share that information, and then I'll get to round 6 in a second to share how deep we've gone, is our ownership group in our conference is committed to play this year, regardless of home and aways and loss of revenue of ticket sales, et cetera, et cetera. So it's great to work with organisations that are about the game first and financial second. You then go to round 6 and we're supposed to travel to Perth. The Perth Premier is pretty adamant that his borders closed till March or April. And so we start looking at what, plan A is we'll fly to Perth. You might have to quarantine to come back, or you might have to quarantine when you go there. Well, that doesn't work. So then Perth have even said, if we have to play round 6 in Sydney to complete the season, we'll do that. So the flexibility for people to absolutely get these games on is there. I hope we go to Perth. I've been to Perth for 2 years. What a beautiful ballpark. I hope we go to Melbourne. Melbourne deserve Manny. Perth deserve Manny.
Yeah.
Our boys love playing there. Our Australian guys love playing in Perth and Melbourne. They deserve to travel there. I want our international guys from the Tigers and the Mets to play in Melbourne and Perth. I don't want their whole experience to be in Sydney. So we're flexible in that as well. And then each team had their chance to talk about their 6 rounds and their scenarios. And we now have A, B, and C options for each of those rounds. And we're just working out now at what date previous to that round should that plan B need to kick in. So plenty of options being thrown around. Extremely confident that our season will continue in its current format with the teams we play. And if we have government restrictions to border closures or quarantining, that's our last hurdle. When I say last hurdle, the other bit of info for you is that the visa process is still relatively straightforward, except now you need a travel exemption. The travel exemption now needs state government support in each of those states. We need to submit our schedule so that we're telling our state governments that Perth would be coming on this date and Melbourne would be coming on this date. And here's the 10 international players and where they originate from. Business case, and with the help of Baseball Australia and Glenn Williams, we've done this collaboratively and it's working great. The government is supportive of baseball, which has been great. But yeah, we're going to get these travel exemptions over the line and then have flights booked. And then you've got the 14-day quarantining in Sydney in a hotel. There is no getting around that. So yeah.
Mate, are you sleeping much at the moment? There's a hell of a lot on the plate to get this on this ballpark or this ball team on the park at the moment, right across Australia.
Yeah, mate. Look, I got a full-time job outside of this. I got 5 kids. I have learnt to live on less sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us, Blue Sox Stadium may look a little different this summer with COVID restrictions, and we've seen it with all the sports that played during the winter time. What can you tell the Blue Sox members and fans about how baseball is going to look at Blue Sox Stadium in regard to ticketing and access and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. As it stands at the moment, the government rule is 50%. We've got the support of Blacktown Council, New South Wales government on that, which is great. 50% in our stadium, which is normally quite a good-sized stadium, would be a big reduction on our average numbers compared to previous years. So, again, I've had to look outside the square, and we've now got down right field and left field lines where it's normally a grassed area or the beer garden area. It is now portable grandstands. So what we're doing is maximising our potential capacity of seating and having 50% of that.
Great.
So just get a little bit creative with the rules.
So additional seating will ensure that we can get as many people. What are you looking about capacity-wise? What are you looking at it being there for this season?
Yeah, look, good question. The modular grandstands, Blacktown International Sports Park's stadium itself, just the main seating, is approximately 1,400 seats. So you're saying that there's only 700 that are allowed to sit up there at the moment. You've got our dugout box areas and the behind home plate grandstand. You know, it might be, call it 800 or 900 in that area. At the moment, we've got approximately 12 to 1,400 extra seats going down the line. So in a normal manner year, and with our imports and with our Aussies and the Team Australia guys and our great crop of young talent that have all signed professionally recently, or most of them have, we would have had a lot of sellouts. I think we'll sell capacity of 50% easily this year. It's a shame that some of these internationals won't get to experience when our stadium's full and the atmosphere is great. You know, you sometimes question the foundations, but it's a well-built stadium, so it's been okay up until now. But look, the number, mate, in my head is between 1,700 and 1,900 actual people in the stadium. And, you know, given that we're still in October, I'd love for that 50% to move to 75% in the next 9 weeks. But we'll let Gladys sort that out in the coming weeks. She's got a bit on a plate at the moment.
She's got a little bit on a plate at the moment. I don't know whether the Sydney Blue Sox will be high on her agenda, but let's hope that these things continue to open up, and yeah, we can get more and more fans in there, and hopefully convert some more sport fans who, you know what, they might just want to turn up and see this Manny Ramirez guy and see what he does, and hopefully he can knock a few out the park. You were big when you took over the Sydney Blue Sox about enhancing that fan experience, and you wanted to make it just a great night of entertainment at Blue Sox Stadium. With all the other things that you're looking at the moment that's on your plate, is there anything else that we're bringing to the table new this year?
Yeah, look, nothing too different from the entertainment. You know, I even got raised through the week, is there COVID restrictions on mascots? And I thought, well, that's the biggest mask in the whole stadium. Look, you know, we've got a great mascot. Funky Phil does a wonderful job entertaining people. I'd like to up the level of the volume of our music in between innings to create that extra entertainment. Our fans are now really engaged and happy with noise. I don't think that'll change. I'm pretty happy with that. I think the focus now is giving back to the fans. And that's a flippant comment, or it's a pompous comment. But for me, it's time for Sydney to bring that shield home.
Yep.
My focus has been on a quality organisation of a great bunch of humans that can help do that. So I don't want fans to just come to the baseball because the food's great and the music's good and Funky Phil's crazy. I want you to come there to watch the best baseball that we can provide and be successful. Because, mate, you've seen it in all sports. You know, winning will always add fans on the ground. It's so we're excited for that. That is my focus this year. It's a culture. It's a winning breed of individuals that then hopefully leaves a legacy that we've seen. You know, Perth Heat did it. Brisbane's done it. Sydney deserves that. I still do what I do.
we're going to catch up with Shane Barclay next week to talk a little bit more about the roster that you're assembling. But in a general sense, you're happy with the guys we're bringing in, particularly these new imports?
Yeah, mate. I've appreciated all the efforts of all the imports of previous years, and I've built some great relationships there. The model this year around affiliated guys rather than independent guys, I'd like to answer that in March. But for me and for Shane with his direction on that, it's a professional baseballer that wakes up every day. It's his job, and he's striving to make it to the bigs sometime soon. And as I say, mate, when I spoke to two of the Detroit guys specifically that have already been announced, and I spoke to them on the phone, and it was it was nothing baseball. It wasn't deliberately baseball chat. It was more about, tell me about your partner and tell me about life. And I give them my life story. And by the end of it, the message is, I'm not coming over there for a holiday. I'm coming to help you win. I need to get more at-bats in because I want to go to spring training and I want to make the major leagues.
Yeah.
Like there is, and again, the genuine delivery of how they say that, they've already signed a contract. They don't need, they don't need to tell me something at the moment that I need to hear. You're coming anyway, mate. They have got a genuine passion to strive to that level, and they'll come here and they'll work on their game. They will help, our organisation do that as well. Andy Graham, that's one of Sydney's greats. He's over in Detroit at the moment, and building himself his own career. The information he gave us about these three guys is great humans that want to compete. B, great humans that want to compete. C, they're playing AAA baseball and they're nearly there.
Yeah.
So when Andy gives you that message, it's like he knows what it takes to be successful. So we grabbed those guys, and mate, we're excited for the mix. There's five from New York. There's 3 from Detroit. Couple other announcements that I'm trying to be careful not to say here. We'll get to them, in the next couple of weeks. But mate, exciting times, yeah.
And as you say, these affiliate guys, they're playing AAA baseball. They're one step away from their dream that they would have had. They're not going to do anything that is going to detract. They will make every at-bat count. They will make every trip to the plate count. Trip to the mound count. Because there's so much competition for their spot or that spot in that 40-man roster that there'll be someone else who'll be trying to do exactly the same thing. So they're not coming here to spend time at Bondi Beach or, heading up to the Blue Mountains for the weekend. These guys are serious ball players who are using this as a stepping stone for their career.
I haven't heard one of them that's been, big on drinking habits. They want to know what our gym looks like. They want to know how many days a week they hit the ground. Tell me a little bit about your team and areas that we've lacked in the last few years, and where can I help improve. And mate, I just got a bunch of gamers right now that are happy to be around each other, and it already feels like the group communicate well enough on social media now that there is already a bond before they've got in here.
Yeah.
So look, I'm excited, but like most sports, championships aren't won 9 weeks pre, so there's still a lot of work to do. But yeah, we're excited.
Mate, tell us about your journey as the owner. As I said, this is from the outset. This is your 3rd year. You've said you've kicked some goals, you've made some mistakes. Tell us about Adam Dobb, the owner today, compared to the one that took the reins a couple of years ago. What have you learned? What have you learned through this, and how do you change your direction, or how do you make it better for yourself coming this upcoming season?
A good question, mate. And I reflect on that a little bit. I don't get caught up in what people think of me, and I don't get caught up in me necessarily needing to put myself into a spotlight and tell people what I've achieved there, because year one was successful, and I relied on a lot of people around me and from other clubs to help me, because, mate, I was literally like just a young rookie compared to the other owners. And I made a lot of mistakes in year one. Leading into year two, I was ready to fix those mistakes. And then it happens in life, but, I go through a separation at home, and that's tough. Yeah. But unfortunately, the most difficult few months for me of that stage of my life were during the season. And I had the majority of my team was very supportive through that, and I'm forever in debt for that. But I wasn't there mentally. I was at the stadium, but I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. So, not to dwell on that, because I'm now healthier physically and mentally than I've been for 42 years. And it's given me the inspiration, the motivation. For me, I owe a lot of people a lot of things now, and this is how I'm going to repay them. It's a professional year now. I've promised those boys that I won't apologise again. I've said it, and we're going to move forward now. And this group of men, and Rachel, be careful how I word that these days, group of humans that we've got there, we will be professional, and we will build to a great ball club. And so this year, I've just been mentally clearer, but I've also backed the risks. The international broadcast deal that's about to come out was a huge risk, but it paid off. The Manny thing, the Rachel thing, the efforts, and, you'll talk about next week, the efforts that Shane's gone through to get us affiliations and other affiliated guys, corporate partners. Yeah, I've lost a lot of sleep in the last 8 months, but this season is already far more successful than the other two. And I'm not one for cliches and all the rest, mate, but I've learned a lot of lessons. I've just always been big on not making the same ones twice.
Mate, I can see in your face, and those people listening on the podcast won't be able to see that, but I can see in your face and I can hear in your voice. And sort of, as we've said, we've known each other for a long time. I can see the focus and the passion, and you're pumped. I can see, mate, you're pumped.
Yeah.
Now, look, mate, you've been very generous with your time. I'm going to close these podcasts out by asking the same question. And we're all baseball people. It's had a huge impact on all of our lives. But I want to ask you, the first person I'm going to ask this question. What is your greatest moment in baseball? Now, that may be as a player, as a coach, as a spectator, as an administrator. What's your greatest moment in baseball?
I'm not normally lost for words, so I think I know which one it is, but let me make sure I cover the others off. I was fortunate enough to play a lot of years in a club in Newcastle that the 8 guys that took the field with me would still stand next to me today if I got married again, which I'm not going to, but that relationship is just strong. And, you've been a part of it too at your club, mate. It's something that I'll never, ever forget, and I cherish it every day. So friendship in the game has been pretty important to me. I was fortunate enough to travel overseas and play. I loved that period of my life. Watching my firstborn son and then the other 3 come through and play their first games and then get into representative baseball, that's a really proud moment. Being able to throw out first pitch opening night when you're the licensee of the Sydney Blue Sox, that's pretty cool. But I still think everything I've done and what our game is, I come back to 2016. I started coaching when my eldest from T-ball through to the Little League years, and we had a country team up on the Central Coast and Little League baseball, and they take away 14 players in those tournaments, and we had 12 kids turn up to the tryouts. So we had to ring around and drag in a few extras. And we go and win our way through to the Nationals with that Bad News Bears group. So we now got a little holiday up to Lismore, and we, the Bad News Bears bit is, resonates with me because that's what they were. There was some good little baseballers there, but we weren't, I didn't think we were that level. So we trained every Sunday for about 9 months. And we taught these kids how to hit curveballs, and we just did some really basic stuff that country baseball doesn't get to do a lot. But anyway, we go up to Lismore and we set the boys a target that out of the 20 teams at the Nationals, we wanted to finish between 12th and 15th. That was our target. There's some big young men there, some great teams. There was 4 or 5 Sydney Metro teams that just left us for dead anytime we wanted to have a trial game. A mistake that I made when I first got up there, and it was my style of coaching and the humorous side to me was, and to make it relax for the boys and an experience, is I told them early on that any game we won in the 10 days we're up there, we could walk up the street, which was about 300 meters away, and it was an op shop. And you were allowed to spend $5 and you could purchase any female apparel that you wanted. And I would wear it for the rest of that day and night. And for those that were on that trip, they can vouch for this. Our boys end up making it to the final at the Nationals. We beat the number 1 seed in the final. We beat Adelaide in the semi-final. Mate, I'm a cross-dressing coach at the Nationals. 10 days. I should have lost my working with children check. But they're the memories and the adversity we overcome, and the bond and the teamwork and the relationships and the lifelong friends, parents as well as the kids, that just sticks to me. We go into the final, and for those that saw it, it was pretty cool. We know we're up against Hills, who for the entire tournament had a 62-1, for and against for the whole tournament. And we get beat 7-4 in the final with our boys.
Amazing.
And there's not many times in life I've accepted second place. Mate, I still have that silver medal.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah. It was amazing.
And to given the amount of things that you've done and achieved and been part of, it's amazing how this game brings those little moments that become so special and so important to us.
Mate, it's and to me, it's friendship, and it was overcoming adversity, and we had so much support. It was crazy. Like, anyway, it was a great moment of my life, and I'm looking forward to, my youngest, the triplets are 8 years of age, and, the team they're in now, I kind of think, well, do I get to do this again in a few years? I hope so.
Adam, as I said, you've been very generous with your time. We thank you so much. Congratulations on what you've achieved to get the ball club to this point. 2021 is going to be amazing. I know there's plenty of Sydney Blue Sox fans and baseball fans pumped, almost as pumped as you for this season to come about. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you at the ballpark soon.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for your time and support, friendship. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Well, there you have it, Sydney Blue Sox fans. Adam Dobb, the owner, and as you can see, a very passionate owner of the Sydney Blue Sox. That wraps up episode number 2 of Blue Sox Banter. Thanks for listening this far into the podcast. But really important for you if you can help us out by subscribing, rating, and reviewing as well. That helps us get in all of those on all of those platforms. Thanks again once again to Adam Dobb for joining us. I'm Glen Hawke, and you've been listening to Blue Sox Banter. Blue Sox Banter is a Caris Communications production hosted by me, Glen Hawke, for the Sydney Blue Sox.